If you're thinking about starting an Amazon FBA business, you need to watch this video. I want to talk about something that so many sellers get wrong, and it can lead to the story that I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. I'm going to read this story to you first, and then I'm going to give you 3 big takeaways that I want you guys to focus on when you start your own Amazon FBA business. So this is a story that was shared on Twitter, and it's from a seller, a successful seller in the past, that has generated $45 million worth of sales on Amazon, but their business is now at the point where they're not making any money. So what's happened, and what can you guys do? What are the 3 takeaway points that you guys need to do to ensure you don't end up in the same situation as this guy? So I've just highlighted the main pieces in yellow, as it's quite a long thread on Twitter, or whatever you call them now, a post or a tweet. So here we go. We have done 45 million in sales over the past 4 years on Amazon. We're about to drop below the $0 in earnings threshold for 4 years of work. So they're basically not making any profit at this stage. In that time, we have paid Amazon $24 million in fees. That is a crazy amount of money. On this journey, I have made countless mistakes and take responsibility for that. And that's fair enough. I think all sellers on Amazon will make mistakes as part of the learning process. So if you ever make a mistake with Amazon FBA business, don't be too hard on yourself. It's going to happen. It's learning from that and then continuing to move forward. Now, moving on, during the past 2 years, Amazon's take rate on our sales went from 46% to 55%. Without that delta, we would still be a barely profitable company. But with that delta, we are now a wildly unprofitable company. But basically, because Amazon fees have gone up and their take of the overall earnings has gone up, this company is now no longer profitable. We are very lucky to have done really well for years and could absorb the losses. So they've been able to survive the past year or so because they've got existing profits. He goes on to say, I have no idea how new Amazon companies, so people like yourselves just starting up, are surviving without the backstop of past profits. As our Amazon advertising expense grows to over 11%, we approach a 60% take rate from Amazon at a 30% COGS, which is cost of goods. That's how much it's costing you to get that unit from the supplier. And that leaves 10% for everything else. So warehousing, payroll, debt expenses, software, any mistakes. And the thread goes on. And this video isn't about picking apart what this guy has done. But I think there are important lessons that if you guys are aware of at the start, you will avoid ending up in this situation. Because really, you never want to be in a situation where you've generated $45 million of sales and your business isn't profitable anymore. I'm sure there are things that could have been adjusted along the way to avoid this situation. But like I said, this isn't about picking on this guy, because I'm grateful he shared this story, because it's so important for you guys to understand what I'm trying to drive home with this video, which I'm going to come to in a moment. And if we scroll down a bit further, they have a full breakdown of all of the costs. They have a comparison between 2021 and 2023, and you can see how the Amazon fees have gone up. So the referral fee is still generally the same, which is 15% of the overall sale price. The fulfillment fee, which they've got here, is FBA pick and pack fee. That has gone from 25% to 30%. You've then got the Amazon storage fees, which now takes up 2% instead of 1% of their earnings, and an Amazon PPC, which has also gone up from 5% to 8% of their earnings. Now, there are things I could pick apart in here, and there are definitely opportunities to prevent this business getting to the situation it has. But I just want to focus on the 3 main takeaways from this video, because as a new seller, if you're aware of these from the start, hopefully you can avoid ever ending up in this situation. And he's not alone in this. Someone else who retweeted his post said every current and prospective Amazon seller should read this. And to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. This is consistent with my experience on my largest brand. Over the past few years, my brand has done 21 million in cumulative revenue, and Amazon has taken 13 million of it. Amazon's take rate went from 52 to 66%. So if I haven't put you off Amazon FBA yet, and you stick with me to explain how you can avoid this situation, there are just 2 things I want to mention very briefly. If you are starting Amazon FBA, there's a link to the FBA Elite course in the pinned top comment. And also, Helium 10 have an offer on in December, which is giving you 40% off for the first 4 months. So you're going to need something like Helium 10 to do your product research. This is a great time to sign up, because 40% off for 4 months is a really good offer. So on with this video. The first thing that I want you guys to be aware of is that I see this a lot through the mentorship side of things that I run, is that people don't pay enough attention to potential profits, their margins, and the return on investment. They think things are just going to work out. They think, oh, if I can buy something for £10 and sell it for £30, there must be a profit in it. I want you guys to really, really focus in on that. And the two things that I would recommend to always be checking throughout the entire development of the product that you're looking at is to focus on your margin and your return on investment. So I'm going to give you some minimum levels that I recommend, and I would seriously avoid being willing to compromise on those levels just to get up and running, because this is what happens a lot of the time. People are so desperate to launch a product. They launch a product regardless, even though the margins are probably too tight from the offset. So the minimum margin you want to make is 30%. Now, if you're a new seller and you're not VAT registered, I want to see that closer to 35%. So if you're selling a product for £30, you want a 30% margin on that product. You want a 30% profit margin. I also want you to aim for a minimum return on investment, and I would recommend at least 80%, preferably 100% for new sellers that aren't VAT registered. So if you invest £10, you want to get that £10 back plus £8 on top. So that is a minimum ROI that I would recommend. And if you can't hit that, if you can't hit a 30% margin and an 80% ROI, I would walk away from that product unless you can negotiate a better deal, or you could develop the product so you could charge a higher cost. You have to make sure those figures stack up. If you're below that and you're trying to force a product to work, it's probably not going to work out long term. The amount of money you're going to spend on the fees that you're aware of up front, which is the fulfillment and referral fees, but also you've got the storage fees, you've got returns, you've got PPC. So when you take that all into account, that's why you need beefy margins to work with. And the two guys that I talked about at the start of this video, I went through their threads, and they kind of do accept that they've got kind of quite large products and also fairly low value products. So their margins are very, very tight. So this is why as a new seller, you need to have good margins from the outset, so that when you do have to pay some of these fees, because you will have to pay them, you have enough to work with. If you start at 30 to 35% margin and you end up at 20% after PPC, storage and returns, that's a pretty good place to be. What you don't want to be doing is starting at 20% and then ending up at 0% or worse like these guys are. So that is why I wanted to make that video. So that's the first point. You need to be aware of your margin and return on investment. The second thing I want you to do is actually to understand how the fees on Amazon work, as many sellers skirt around this issue. And this nearly caught me out with the second product I ever launched. So let me take you over to the Amazon fees. And this is available if you go to sell.amazon.co.uk/pricing, or just go onto Google and search for Amazon FBA UK fees. That will bring you to this website. Now, your referral fee is basically what you pay for Amazon giving you the privilege of selling on their platform. That is generally going to be 15% or 15.3%. There are some categories where it's a bit more or a bit less, but for most people, it will be 15.3%. You've then got the fulfillment fees, which is how much Amazon charge you for picking, packing your product, sending it to the customer, and managing the customer service. And generally together, those should work out to about 30% to 35% of your overall sale price. The problem is a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the fulfillment fee, and they end up sending products into Amazon that cost them a lot more for Amazon to fulfill. So that's what I'm going to go through in a bit more detail in this section of the video. So let me take you over to the rate card, and to access this, click on this arrow here which says fulfillment fees. This will scroll you automatically down to the bottom, and you can download the rate card for your relevant country. So I've got the English one open here, and I've blown it up so you guys can see it. Now, the thing I want to focus on is the standard parcel tier here, which is where most people will probably end up with their first product. Some people will be selling smaller ones, some people will be selling larger ones, but the vast majority will probably end up in the standard parcel. Now, they give you the dimensions for this tier, which is 45 by 34 by 26 centimeters. And what a lot of new sellers don't realize is that a lot of products are actually quite borderline on a lot of these dimensions. So you need to really pay attention to the package dimension of your product to ensure you fall within this standard parcel tier. Now, was my second product I was talking about. My second product, I wasn't paying enough attention to this. And when I sent it into Amazon and I started selling, and all of a sudden the fulfillment fee was like £2 higher than I expected, because one of my dimensions was, I think it was half a centimeter too big. And if I'd paid more attention to this and ensured that my product was packaged slightly different, or if I needed to change the design of the product a little bit, I could have saved a lot of money. And that's what I did with my second batch. And I'm actually mentoring someone at the moment who is considering a product that we've noticed is borderline one of these dimensions. And so by changing the dimension of that product by half a centimeter, it's going to change the fulfillment fee by £2. And that's the difference between that product being viable or not. So you've really got to pay close attention to the dimensions and also to the weight, because the weight used to just be straightforward, however much your product weighed in kilograms. But now we have dimensional weight as well. And what Amazon will do is they will base the fee on the highest of the two. So either the actual weight of the product or the dimensional weight of the product. And for some products that hasn't really been an issue, but for a lot of products, it does really impact the overall cost. So people that were selling quite reasonably large but quite light products, maybe something like a yoga roller, all of a sudden went from a very, very low fulfillment fee to a very high fulfillment fee because the dimensional weight was a lot higher than the actual weight. And I've got a couple of products here to kind of drive home this example. So this product here is just a chopping board, and you can see they very helpfully have included the dimensions in the title. So this is 52 by 32 by 20, or by 2 centimeters. So 520 mil by 320 mil by 20 mil. Now, if we go to the rate card here and look this up, at 52 centimeters, they're going to be in the small oversize category. So as a minimum, they're going to be paying £5.06. Now, if they were to tweak that slightly, so maybe they don't need to have such a long handle. Does this chopping board really need to be 52 centimeters long? Could they have got away with making it 44.5 centimeters long? Maybe make it a fraction wider instead. So, for example, these guys, this one pushes right up to the limits at 44 centimeters by 30 by 2 centimeters. And if you look that up on the rate card, they fall into the standard parcel because they're under that 45 dimension. So that's why it's so important to look these things up and pay attention to the detail. Don't just take an existing product and assume your fees are going to be the same, because every product is going to be supplied slightly different. It's going to be packaged slightly different. And sometimes you can either modify the packaging or the product itself to ensure you fit into a particular tier. And often that can be the difference between the product being viable or not. So the first thing is pay attention to your ROI and margins to make sure you're at least 30% and 80%. Then you want to pay close attention to the actual dimensions and the weight. And remember, calculate the dimensional weight because they will take the higher of the two. To calculate the dimensional weight, what you need to do, if we just take one of these as an example, let's bring up the calculator. We would take 52 centimeters, we'd multiply that by 32, so it's width by length by height, whichever way around you want to do that, and then by 2, and that gives us 3,328, and then divide that by 5,000. Now that's only 0.66 kilograms, so that is actually lighter than the actual weight of this product because this product is very thin. But if this product was maybe 5 or 10 centimeters, the dimensional weight would rocket up and would be a lot higher. So that's how you calculate the dimensional weight: length times width by depth, and then divide it by 5,000. So those are the first two things. And the third thing I want you to do is actually run Amazon's own revenue calculator so you can see the potential profit that can be made. Now, I'm logged into my account, so it will look very slightly different, but you can use this as a guest. You don't need a seller account to try this. Just Google Amazon FBA profitability calculator, and that will bring you to this page. And there are two ways you can use this. You can either search for an existing product to see what the fees are for that product, or you can define your own product by putting in the dimensions and the weight and choosing the category as well. So I'm just going to use an existing product for this example. So I've got the chopping board we were looking at. So let's click search. And this is going to bring up two lots of figures. It's going to bring up Amazon fulfillment, which is FBA, and your fulfillment, which is FBM. So I'm just going to close that because it's just going to confuse things. So this product is currently being sold for £14.90, which is costing them a £2.28 referral fee, which is 15% of the sale price. The next fee they pay is the fulfillment fee. So that's how much they pay for Amazon taking their product, picking and packing it, sending it to the customer, and managing any returns and customer service. So they pay £3.68, and that is why this rate card and being aware of this is so important. So if they're paying that, they're going to be a standard parcel under 1.9 kilograms paying £3.68. But if their dimension was a little bit bigger, they could easily be pushed into small oversize, or if the weight went up a bit more, it could easily cost them £1 or £2 more there. This is why we have to be aware of the dimensions and the weight, including dimensional weight, at all times. If we come down a bit further, you can put in some inventory levels so you can calculate approximate storage cost. So let's say we were going to order 500 units of this chopping board and we were going to sell maybe 150 units per month. That will then include the storage fees in the calculation. And if you're a new seller, make sure you put the estimated VAT to 0, as you're not going to be charging VAT on your sale price. Now, this does change back every time you adjust the figures, so make sure this VAT doesn't go back to 20% automatically, because the calculator unfortunately does like to do that. You've then got the cost of goods sold and the miscellaneous cost. So what I just put my landed cost in the cost of goods sold. Now, your landed cost is how much you pay for the unit from the supplier for your freight to the UK, your import duty, so your customs duty, and the VAT on that. Now, if your supplier's given you an all-inclusive DDP cost, you can just put that in. But if you're paying FOB or EXW from your supplier, you need to add all the other costs up and come to your own unit cost. But let's just say my landed cost for this particular product was £5. So if I managed to get this product for £5 landed to the UK to get it to the Amazon fulfillment center, including customs duty, VAT, then my potential margin is 24% and only £3.60 profit, which just isn't enough. If these were the figures for a product that I was looking at, I would be walking away from this product unless I could either source the product cheaper or I could add enough value to justify asking for a higher sale price. Please do not try to force a product to work when the margins and the ROI do not stack up and are not a minimum 30% margin and a minimum of 80% return on investment. Now, just to conclude the video, there is a link to the FBA Elite course in the pinned top comment alongside an affiliate link to Helium 10 that will give you 40% off for the first 4 months. And if you do want to start Amazon FBA, I've put together a free step-by-step checklist that will show you everything you need to do to make your first £100,000. I'm going to pop up that video now, and I'll see you guys over there.